Okay.
There we go.
Cool. There we go. Welcome everyone to the Red Pill Australia Zoom today with special guests from the Citizens Party. We have Daryl Staggett and we have Ian Isherwood. Sorry, Glen Isherwood. Sorry, Glen. I knew terrible. I knew I'd screw it up. And of course we have Nadine. Nadine Sisterton. Hello, welcome. Apologies for that. So tell us a bit about yourselves, gentlemen. Lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kylie. I joined the Citizens Party under its former name, Citizens Electoral Council, way back 12 years ago, around the time of the global financial crisis, which we as a party had been warning about for a long, long time before that. Our major concern and focus is with the question of banking, economics, and the future of Australia with regards to things like national sovereignty, self-sufficiency, and making sure that the people we elect serve the common good of the people. And part of that is to work globally towards the idea of peace through economic development. So I would say the most important principle is that to control our own destiny, we have to have a democratic control over our banking system and our financial direction as a nation, which we do not have at the moment. And what we saw in the global financial crisis way back in 2007, 2008 was the end of a system. It came crashing down. The global banking system had been full of speculation. The regular physical economy, like production and manufacturing and industry, had been, destroyed in lots of Western countries, and in its place, a lot of financial speculation, financial activity replaced it, and it was a bubble, and that crashed. And we said only a major fundamental change could get the United States, Australia, all the Western countries back on track, and that did not happen. And that has been the focus of our research and our work. And we have been battling lately and having some victories against some of the government's sinister and legislation that is an assault on our freedoms and the rights of our privacy, such as the Cashman Bill and the bail-in law as well.
Oh, great. And so tell us what has been happening with those two issues. I know there's been quite a bit of movement of late, and on both accounts, actually, even recently with the bail-in laws as well, that seems to have been highlighted, and also negative interest rates too has been a very recent one that they're actually talking on mainstream about. So people's ears are pricking up, and those three items actually, I think they intertwine with each other. Can you tell us where you're up to there?
Sure. Back in, it was on Valentine's Day 2018, late in the afternoon on a Friday, in the Senate, when there was only 7 or 8 members sitting. The then Turnbull government's Crisis Resolution and Other Measures Bill 2018, which we've loosely called the bail-in bill, was shoved through the Senate in a fairly undemocratic fashion. 8 members sitting in the House. It was passed only on the voices, not with a show of hands. And we're told that on the day there was a independent senator and a One Nation senator sitting in their offices waiting for the government to come back to them with more details on the bill, and the government senators had a fair idea that these two were going to vote against the bill, so they left them sitting in their office waiting for the phone to ring while it was just shoved through the Senate. And the what we loosely call the bail-in bill is legislation is written as such that any financial instrument can be bailed in. So, you know, your deposits aren't safe. Your term deposits not safe. Your checking account's not safe. You know, right all the way up to your superannuation can be bailed in, depending on how desperate the minister of the day gets, because any financial instrument can be bailed in just in the regulations of the bill without being passed through the House.
And bail in, by that you mean that holding your cash, holding your
That's
funds.
right. If we go back to the last global financial crisis, banks all around the world failed, and they were bailed out with taxpayers' funds by their governments.
Yep.
This is pretty much the same mechanism, but the government has been taken out of the loop, and the bail-in law allows the banks to seize your deposits.
Right. And what about those who turn around, Daryl, and sort of say, oh, well, my money's protected by a government guarantee?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well, I'm of the understanding that it's only deposits up to 250,000. Is that correct, Glen? That are guaranteed.
Right. Well, we sent this claim to our lawyer Bob Butler, and we asked him to do a formal analysis of the legislation, and he came back saying, nope. The government this idea of a guarantee of deposits up to $250,000 is only when a bank is being liquidated and closed down. The bail-in law is designed to rescue a bank that is failing and happens before the $250,000 deposit guarantee is activated. The government has to give the all clear, it's got to give the thumbs up for the deposit guarantee to be put into effect. And currently it's not in effect only when the government gives the all clear that it is. So there was a lot of this is a confidence play or confidence trick going back to the government of Rudd to, in the GFC, reassure people that Australian banks were safe. And there was measures taken by the government to boost confidence and to stimulate the housing bubble. And that was part of the response. So push comes to shove, bail-in would be used before the deposit guarantee is active. So
does that mean you lose your money first, and then if you've got zero there after the banks have taken it, then obviously the guarantee is not going, it's going to be null and void because there's nothing to guarantee. Is that?
And furthermore, yeah, and furthermore, it's the government that has to guarantee the money, not the bank.
Right.
So we've seen this in Europe. A bunch of countries in Europe have the same system of bail-in. They started passing laws as early as 2013, 2012. And Cyprus, the case of Cyprus is the most egregious, where life savings, pensioners' deposits were taken. Everyone in the country got a haircut. Cases have happened since where bail-in has been used, but the onus is back on the deposit insurance and the government to find that money. And sometimes even 5-7 years later, they don't see that money come back. So the key thing about bail-in is this was designed by global banking forces, establishment forces like the Bank for International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, working on papers written by Wall Street and City of London financial traders. And they said, how do we get normal people to pay for the next crash because governments probably won't? So that's a bit of history. Yeah.
So since then, we have run a very large and successful campaign. We've had a very effective collaboration with Malcolm Roberts of One Nation, who on the 27th of February in the Senate tabled an amendment to the bail-in bill. It's called the Banking Deposits Bill 2020, and the amendment is that deposits be specifically excluded from the bail-in, and that deposits be specifically protected in the system.
Okay, and where is that up to?
Sorry, go ahead.
That's due to come up for a debate in the Senate in a future sitting. So another arm of the campaign in relation to this is to to let our senators know that Malcolm Roberts' amendment is coming up for debate, and they need to debate it favourably, vote it up unanimously, because let's face it, you know, the government being complicit in the banks stealing our deposits is flat out criminal, and be a pretty good way to start anarchy in this country if that's what they want.
Oh, definitely. Nadine, did you have any questions that come up for you at the moment?
Oh, not yet. They're developing.
Okay, good. That's all right.
Developing questions.
I just thought I'd ask you. Now, with the cash ban, I understand that that the Citizens Party was prolific in putting that forward, and the fight against that, and certainly with YouTube was being you know, Citizens Party on YouTube, that seemed to have a great response, which was terrific, as well as obviously all the members of the Citizens Party. But your reach really went ahead, I understand, with people that had no idea you existed, including me. So I was absolutely enthralled when I heard about the cash ban. I just immediately, you know, I was horrified to think that legal tender would be banned between private citizens over, even if it was over $10,000. It's really nobody's business, but mine and ours, from my perspective, that nobody has a right to have a say as to what I do with my money. And if I wanted to have a private sale with somebody for a car or anything else, if I was a business and I wanted to purchase product, then I could do, whether it was cash card or, you know, whatever. So, and now to find that the government was going to step in just because of a few criminals that certainly were nowhere near the warrant for this type of arrangement, to make it an actual law, and to then put it as a, if you crossed it, that you would get a 2-year jail sentence and a hefty fine. I thought, wow, that's just unbelievable. I'm so pleased to see that you're fighting for it. So tell us where you're up to with that, what you did, and then what's happening now, and what has been the result, because it's quite exciting.
The cash ban was the issue which brought me around the party. For 35 years in this country, hadn't been fully comfortably able to align myself with a political party in this country. And I heard about the cash ban on John Adams and Martin North's show In the Interests of the People. And I was horrified. This is a flat-out attack on our freedom of choice, our civil liberties, and our right to use what's legal tender in this country that we work hard to save hard for. And I was complaining to my wife about it, and she said, instead of complaining about it on the outside, why don't you get on the inside and do something about it? The next episode of In the Interests of the People, John Adams was promoting a poster that he'd had commissioned by an artist to do, a cartoon-style poster of Scott Morrison in his Soviet regalia, and helicopters dropping money on the big four banks, and somebody in jail holding $10,000, and the poster was entitled "Soviet Liberal Government Unleashes Communism for the Banks." And in the next episode of their show, Citizens Party Research Director Robbie Barwick claimed ownership of the poster for the Citizens Party, and put the call to action out there to the Australian public. If you want this poster to go and put on party offices and so on, let us know, we'll send you a PDF. And I was actually house sitting for a friend at the time who didn't have a printer, and then Robbie also said, if you're in a place without a printer, let us know, we'll send you the posters. So that was my call to action. I phoned into headquarters here. I joined as a member. I said, listen, send me a heap of those posters down to Tasmania, and I went and plastered them all over the banks, the party offices, I got pretty good at doing midnight poster runs through through my younger years as in the entertainment industry, but stood back and took photos of proof of my work to send to the party to show what I was doing. And one of the leadership came down for a visit to Tasmania and a series of meetings and met with me, and they invited me over here to take a tour through party headquarters and have welcomed me aboard as a political organiser for Tasmania, and full steam ahead. But what we've done with the cash ban since then is embark on a huge public awareness campaign with petitions and so on, sending delegations to the senators and the members of parliament right across the country, letting them know and sending a loud message. We mobilised thousands and thousands of people right around the country to be doing this, and also sending submissions to the Treasury Department, who received 4,000 submissions on this, and they're normally only used to receiving about 20 or 30 public submissions, so it was a huge groundswell, and 2,600 submissions to the Senate inquiry. Because of the work of our members and supporters contacting their members of parliament and senators on this, the Labor Party sent this bill off to a Senate inquiry. 2 rounds of hearings of the Senate inquiry went very well for us, and John Adams played a starring role in the second Senate inquiry hearing held in Sydney. The Senate Inquiry Committee was due to report to the Senate on the 7th of February, but that got pushed out towards the end of February. They made their report. They basically agreed that the bill be passed if the government could meet 8 recommendations on the bill, and that's pretty much where it ground to a halt. We had very reliable word from one of our high-ranking friends inside the coalition that there's pretty much no way that the government would be able to pass this because the 8 recommendations had made the bill unworkable. And from there, it became, in their own words, an orphan which nobody wanted to own, left in the corner. And we have had word very recently from one of our high-ranking Liberal Party friends that the government has decided that they're not going to take the cash ban for a vote in the Senate. They're going to drop it.
Phew.
So we're going to watch it like a hawk. We're declaring a qualified victory on it.
Will they make an announcement, Daryl? Will they make an official announcement, do you think?
I doubt it. They did a very good job of keeping it out of the news from the get-go. Very embarrassing for a government to have to drop a piece of its own proposed legislation. So I'm guessing that there won't be a big song and dance about this in the media.
And I think there's a real strong acknowledgement for the role that Australians took here. We played a role in getting the word out, but we've always said, and Robbie Barwick on our Citizens Report always says, it's the engagement from the Australian public and the focused activism from the population which gets results. And there's always times where you feel like throwing up the hands and saying, oh, is there any point? Can we get anywhere with this? And sometimes politics is always messy. It's confusing. Sometimes you don't know whether you're winning or you're losing. There's he said, she said. It gets really hard to measure your results in the moment, but the momentum and the persistence and the constant engagement and increasing the numbers of those involved led to this result. And one extraordinary thing that happened in fighting against this cash ban bill was when we got word that a motion was put forward at the Liberal Party Regional Victorian Conference late last year. And at this conference, 97% of the Liberal Party membership, normal people, voted for this bill to be scrapped, to be dumped and abandoned. The
Wow.
politicians said they would not do that. And I believe on the day that this vote took place, both Michael Sukkar, Deputy Treasurer, and Frydenberg were present for speeches and left before the vote was taken, 10 minutes before. So they got a resounding condemnation of this assault. And they said, this is an attack on freedom, this is an attack on liberty, it insults our principles as a party, dump it. And that led to a brawl, I believe, inside the Liberal Party, the backbench versus Scott Morrison and Frydenberg and the cabinet. And that played out with Alan Jones coming out on TV in March, Sky News and on 2GB radio, spending a whole week, every program, attacking the government's bill on this. So there was so many different elements of the campaign, the writing the letters, meeting the MPs face to face, doing the phone calls to their office. And from moment to moment, you don't know where it's going to go, but they got scared of the blowback from the population, and that's something to take on board. On cash ban, I think there's one thing to address, and that's the why. Why the cash ban? Why did they want this law? Where did it come from? Well, this is something that's devastated Europe. Countries have had cash limits put in place down to as low as 1,000 euros. In Greece, 500 euros. It's to go cashless, to force people to use the private banks with all their fees, with all their ability to track your financial behaviour. It's not about dealing with money laundering or tax evasion, because we've got the laws to do it already. And as Andrew Wilkie pointed out in a speech against this bill in the House, they've got Crown Casino and surveillance and whistleblowers, and they don't care. They're not down there finding out who's carrying these bags of money now, and they could be, the federal police. So what is this law going to do other than cause a massive amount of misery? But it does boost the banks, and that in a climate where the economies of the world are so perilous, and the financial systems are, we've got interest rates almost at negative rates. We're at 0.25%. If they go negative, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, said in their own documents, if people can grab cash, they will. Negative interest rates only work if we can phase out cash and force people to use banks. At the end of the day, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
The Black Economy Task Force identified hairdressers, tradies, so on, doing cash jobs to avoid paying their GST. I really think small business people in this country are a little bit smarter than that. Any small business person in this country who tries to avoid paying his GST is also going to miss out on the opportunity to claim his GST imputation credits. The real black economy in this country is our big four banks, the big four accounting firms who come into the banks and they consult with the banks and the large multinational organisations who pay no tax in this country. They consult for these organisations and help them hide their money in offshore tax havens. Then they come back into these organisations, our big four banks, etc., and they do the accounting for the organisation. Then they come back in and audit their own work and sign off on it all. This is all totally corrupt from the top down.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's legal. Like, nobody's saying, hang on a minute, you've done this work. How do you have the right to audit your own? And by the way, how do you have the right to influence the bank to then say, oh, well, actually, you should, maybe we should make the law, we really should, well, it's not just a bank, even lawmakers, they're sort of influencing them to reduce the minimum amount of cash that you can transact you know, between each other. I believe it was KPMG down to $2,000 I was suggesting, recommending, and they were being listened to the, and it was
Well,
very
KPMG actually wrote this bill.
right. And that's what horrified me the most was, hang on, we've got this private company that's coming in, and you know, how do they have the right to have a say? And nobody else,
So,
you know, it's not being left to a referendum or anything like that. The people need to be, you know, alerted, and thank God they were alerted. So
is it actually legal what they are doing? Like underlying, because we know that there's a lot of things that the government do that aren't actually legal, but they get away with it by putting in like a legislation or a directive when it's not necessarily like in common law particularly legal what they're doing. Understand what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of parliamentary process is run by convention, not by law.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
the difficulty. They can overreach, and they do. And we've seen that time and time again, where the courts have ruled that they've broken their own laws, or the laws were invalid. And sometimes the law system upholds these laws they pass, but that's where law and justice are two different things.
they are, unfortunately, yeah. It seems to be. I think with the climate that's been going on lately, obviously, you know, we've had the COVID-19 and we've had the cash ban going on underneath it, and well, not underneath it, behind that screen, and also the push for a mandatory vaccination where you're not going to be forced to have it, but you won't be able to do certain things unless you do have it. And people just don't get what's going on. The government's slowly taking away your freedoms to choose how you bank your money. If you want to bank your money, why can't you have all your money under your bed or wherever you want to have it, you know? Why can't I just withdraw everything I own? Why have I got to adhere to this? Why can I only have a job unless I get a flu vaccine? You know, and people, they're slowly waking up to it, because I guess the worst thing they did was shut everyone down for months, because it gave people who wanted to start using their brain a chance to research, and it's there. Like, all of this is there if you start looking. And I mean, look at us, we're all now Zooming each other and having meetings, and we're learning even more information from one another. So it's really powerful for us, because this is where we can start making these big changes. And, you know, in your position, creating a political party, I'm all for the smaller parties, because your message is so strong. And the more, as you said before, the more that you get people behind you, this is where we make change. It's not sitting in your lounge room going, oh, nothing's working. What am I going to do? You know, you've got to back these people. And the things that I do are, they're pretty busy. And you know, a lot of people don't understand my passion for fighting for our human rights. But if we don't, we're not going to have much left if we keep letting it slip away. So it makes me really happy to know that there's people like yourselves, you know, doing this important work, and with the help of other citizens as well, because you'd be pretty stuffed without it.
That's right.
I think the saying goes, where in adversity there's opportunity, and there is a silver lining. You know, what's happening right now is the worst economic devastation this nation's seen. We were saying, though, that even before coronavirus presented itself this year and became the focus of everything, this crash was already on our doorstep before that. And that's because of the dismantling of our economy from 35 to 40 years of deindustrial policies, neoliberalism, and globalization. And it's been a big no-no in the political establishment to ever question free trade and globalization. You're not allowed to do it.
No.
There's been a political consensus amongst the major parties that free trade is and globalization is the way it is, and there's no alternative. That's starting to break down more now than ever. And what really showed it up was the recognition of how vulnerable we are because of our export-import reliance. When China closed down earlier in January of this year, and suddenly the product stopped flowing to Australia, we said, oh, wow, we've let ourselves go. Like, looking at the scales, we've let ourselves go. And out of this, there's been an incredible response to our current campaign and push for returning Australia to what we used to have, a public bank, a public national government bank, modelled on what the Commonwealth Bank used to be before it was privatised, before this era of privatisation. Now, we have legislation currently supported by Bob Katter to create what you'd say would be an interim public investment bank using a converted clean energy finance corporation. Now, we're not supporters of clean energy at the Citizens Party. There's solar powers and windmills, mainly because it's still connected to the grid and it's a waste of money. But what we do highlight there is that this is a facility the government has for infrastructure development. It's there. We don't have to create something from scratch, and it could be capitalised to build the water projects, create the jobs, support small businesses and manufacturing, and get the jobs back to the country. We took this proposal to Bob Katter. He has already made mention of it in the last sitting of Parliament. This is something that should be done to build major infrastructure projects. And very recently, a Liberal Party senator, there's a brilliant interview conducted by Martin North on YouTube, was put up last week with Senator Jared Rennick, who has broken from the normal line and the normal spiel of the Liberal Party, the coalition, and he's calling for an end to privatisation, the creation of a national infrastructure bank for major development projects, and an overhaul of the tax system. So that's extraordinary, and it shows that there's a growing shift going on around the country on this subject.
Yeah, no, there is. And we definitely, I think it'd be great to have you back again. I've just noted our time is growing very short. We've got a couple of minutes left. And I just wondered, firstly, Nadine, if you had any closing remarks or any quick questions for them. Otherwise, if you could let us know, Daryl and Glen, what's the best way to support you and how to find out more about you. So Nadine, do you have anything that you wanted to specifically ask before we go?
Oh, no, we can talk next time.
Yep. All right.
If we've only got a short, yeah.
That's okay. All good. So gentlemen?
Well, the best way to support what we're doing is to jump on board our weekly subscription magazine, the Australian Alert Service magazine. 16 to 20 pages every week, comes to you in hard copy and followed up in email as well. I'm a bit old-fashioned. I like to flip through the pages while I'm reading it. I can take it and sit outside under a tree and read it as well, which you can't do with your laptop really. And I can then forward it on to interested people. I can also archive it away at home because I'm always referring back to them. And the electronic version I can easily shoot out to people in my address book. But it's well researched by our editorial department. It's all our own global research, published and printed in-house. It's a subscription. Is
that on your website, the Australian?
It is available to subscribe to on our website. Yes.
The Australian Party, is it? What's the website?
Sorry?
Tell us what the website was quickly.
The website is citizensparty.org.au. Great.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. That's terrific. If again, the citizensparty.org.au, is that correct?
Yep.
And certainly if you have any questions about this interview, feel free to leave queries in the comment section below. And we look forward to the next opportunity to see you again. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful, and all the very best. And please keep in touch with us and let us know how you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Nadine. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you both. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.